ID, and unless they had their address in their user ID, I don't care where they live. So Barbara Pierce probably doesn't want to show off her ID because it has a lot of personal details, and yes.
That's a pure element.
Yeah, let's pretend that rotten.com URL doesn't exist. So nobody here knows who this is? Nobody? Well, yeah, so how about a picture of her and her father? Does anybody recognize who that guy is? So can somebody tell me who that is? You've got a 50% chance of getting it right. Can somebody tell me who she is?
Some comedian.
Well, that's one of the Bush twins. That's Barbara Bush. This is the photo ID that she was using to illegally buy beer and get into bars before she was 21. This is the President of America's daughter, her fake ID. And yeah, so how do you know? How do you know that some random piece of plastic that somebody flashes you is good? At some point, you have to trust something, and I don't know shit about fake IDs. I'm not a qualified expert to say this ID is real and this ID is not. And I would consider myself more of a professional than the guy that sells me liquor, but people make these decisions all the time, and the insistence on verifying photo ID is completely arbitrary. It is just as good or as bad of a decision as, say, verifying somebody's identity by a social network by saying, hey, this is the guy that runs DEF CON. I think I know who that is. His key's all right. This is as arbitrary of a decision-making process as any other, but because it is backed up by a government and it's on a piece of shiny plastic, people seem to accept it more. And I have a problem with this. So that's my primary rant about how people are handling the web of trust and doing identity verification. Here's a quick overview of a potential non-crypto application that I'm working on for using the web of trust. Here's a slightly different key. Instead of having my name, it just has an email address. And there are two of them. Both of these email addresses are valid. I never touch my Gmail account. The only reason I have a Gmail account is so when everybody else, when they were still rare, was going, I want one, I could say I have one and I never use it. You're a sucker. You know, don't use a web-based email service that the whole point of it is for people to sell you advertisements and to learn about your personal habits by doing data mining. And you can run your own mail server. It'll be more secure and more private. But they're both valid. Which do you think is better? The top, I have 3 signatures by people who I would consider personal friends. And at the bottom, I have 3 signatures by random people that I exchanged signatures with after last year's key signing party here. Which would you try to contact me at first if you knew the information about the people who made these signatures?
The first one, because I don't trust Gmail to handle the information right.
Okay.
So they will they will handle this in the way I want. They will store the metadata connected with this email.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be available to persons I don't want to know this.
Okay, well, say Gmail is taken out of the equation. Say instead of having email addresses in the UIDs, I have phone numbers.
So you left out 2 signatures that are important. You left out your self-signatures. And those include primary user ID.
Let's pretend that all of the user IDs are self-signed because I'm a lazy asshole and I don't make revocation for user IDs.
Yeah, but still, one of those will be the primary user ID.
That can change. And in fact, if we go back in the slides, I can show you the primary user ID of somebody. In the comment field of his key, he says, this is my real email address because I couldn't change it and I lost control over the primary, so use this one instead. And he couldn't revoke his the email address because of some craziness going on, and he just put it in his comment field saying, use this one really.
The first ID has more specific information on the signatures.
Okay. Yep. This person here?
The answer to your question is, if I know Hendrik Schultz, then I will use the second one, and if I know Miles Norden, I'll use the first one. And if I don't know anyone on this list, then it's all meaningless to me anyway.
Okay, but what if you know that I talk to Miles Norden on an almost daily basis and that I've never talked to Henrik Schultz since last year's key signing party? Which one would you use?
If I don't know Miles, then this is still useless to me.
You don't need to know him, but let's just pretend that you know that I talk to him on a daily basis. Would that give you any weight in your decision?
No.
Okay.
Would definitely do. Because the guy you've met once on a key signing party, you never know how much other keys he will sign, if he's a true guy, whatever, but somebody you really know by heart from it. Daily work.
Yeah.
Somebody that you can put trust and
You don't know for sure, but chances are likely that the person that you talk to every day has a better idea of how to get in touch with you than the person that you talk to once and have never since talked to again. And this may not always be the case, but if you look at it from a probabilistic standpoint, it's a lot more likely to work. So what if user IDs were not attached to keys? What if you were just signing the user IDs for the basis of verifying the information in the user IDs? So let's forget about crypto, and let's just say I'm going to publish a list of my email addresses and my different names I go by and my websites and my phone numbers. And if you think that the information is valid, you sign it. And you let the rest of the world know that you think it's currently valid. So take your entire address book, whether it's from your phone or from your program like Outlook or whatever, and go through and just set trust levels to each of them, and then sign the information to do the rigorous crypto part of it, and then push it out and say use a system like FOAF. So here's an example of some XML that tells everybody else how to get in touch with me. And at the very bottom, I have a phone number. And I let everybody else know this. But a lot of times, if people change their phone number, you don't know whether the number is still valid or if it's not. Because I might just get lazy. I might change my phone number. I might completely forget that I have this published on the web, and I might not update it. But if somebody else calls me on a daily basis, if my girlfriend calls me every night to say goodnight, she probably knows what my phone number is. But the person who I haven't talked to in 6 months, while they may have used to know what my phone number is, they might not know it anymore. So you can assign trust values to people based on how well they know somebody else, and then pull in all of the information and try to get an idea of which contact info is probably more likely to be correct. So you assign trust values to people based on how good they keep information, in this case in the social networking sense. So if you know that somebody is meticulous or anal about how they keep their data is probably good. But if somebody comes in and out of somebody else's life every 6 months to a year, their data might be out of date. So you can assign trust values, and you can crunch the numbers, come up with a good metric, and have a program that will show you what is the most probable contact information. This would be a pretty valuable extension to FOAF, and I'm kind of working on it. I have too much other stuff going on, so I'm not doing as much as I could be, but it's a project I'm working on so that people can have a probabilistic way of identifying how to get in touch with somebody in a way that they can trust more. And it's all based on existing social networks. It's not arbitrary signatures. It's not a bunch of people dressed mostly in black showing up at key signing parties and talking about how great crypto is and damn the man. And it's about real world social networks that everybody in this room uses on a day-to-day basis, whether they realize it or not. And it's difficult because the trust values may be different from person to person, but it does work. Look at the success of systems like Friendster or MySpace or whatever. These use very similar systems, but they're just not putting numbers on it. And I'm just saying, put some numbers, add some rigor to it, and it could be a very valuable tool in order to keep track of people that you haven't seen in a while or don't keep in touch with on a regular basis. So that's it, really, except for one last rant, and this has to do with the key signing party that's coming up. So, who here again is in the key signing party? Who here has read the key signing party how-to? Okay. Who here likes the key signing party how-to? Who here does not like the key signing party? How to? This wasn't originally going to be in the talk, but I read this as I was preparing my slides, and I just can't pass up the opportunity to rant about it because, really, what the fuck? It's important to note here that some people believe that keeping their public key secret adds an extra degree of security to their encrypted communications. I'm going to read the rest of this. When you disagree with me, like raise your hand or flip me off or something, but I'm just going to read, and at the point where you object, let me know. This is true because a key server could be broken or compromised and return the incorrect public key when queried. Further, the key on a given public key server may not be the most up-to-date version of the key. For example, additional signatures may have been added to the key which have not been propagated or uploaded to the key server. It is also true because the public key of a key pair is needed to carry out certain types of attacks against the public key crypto systems which PGP uses. While many people expect with reasonably large key sizes that these attacks are so extremely unlikely to be successful that it does not matter if the public key is broadcast, keeping the public key secret does in fact strengthen the key pair. You're not raising your hands. Come on, guys. Who here knows what Kerckhoffs's assumption is? Give me a show of hands. Kerckhoff? Can somebody tell me who Kerckhoff is and what his assumption is? Up here.
19th century German cryptographer said, never assume that the crypto system is secret, always assume that the secret key is
Yes.
secret.
So, okay, what he said was basically, the only thing that should be kept secret in the system is the secret, and in this case, it's the key. An attacker should have full knowledge of how the system works and of all of the public details, and it's secure if they still can't break it. Security through obscurity is not.
Yeah, but the fact that theoretically it's important to design a crypto system based on the fact that the attacker knows everything, but the secret key doesn't mean that it does not improve the security by just hiding other things.
Yep.
It's just a theoretical idea.
Yeah, so basically it doesn't increase security by keeping the public information secure because that should not be additional help to an attacker. It should be secure whether they know it or not. Unfortunately, you know, in practical examples, like for example, the United States healthcare system, they're not allowed to give out their public keys because, oh my God, somebody might see it on a key server and try to hack us. And even though the crypto is safe, that's dangerous. So we can't do it. But
there is one problem with it. It is traffic analysis. There is one problem with it, which is traffic analysis. I know that certain agencies are collecting public keys and they're analyzing the traffic because when you send something encrypted and signed with PGP, then the traffic includes the information who sent it and who it was sent to. And this makes sure that the people who sniff the traffic know who is communicating with them. So that's part of the problem there, yeah.
okay.
And I think that's the reason why this how-to is written that way.
Okay. Well, my basic point is giving up the public key does not really add or take away from the security. By Kerckhoffs's assumption, you should be able to have the public key and it should still be secure no matter what. Information leaking, side channel attacks, data gathering, that's a completely separate issue. There are ways around that, but I don't get it. That it's saying don't give out your public key because it means your key pair can be broken into more easily. And it's stuff like this that is basically propagating bad key management practice and just myths about what is safe and what isn't. And traffic analysis is one thing, but that's completely separate. I'm just saying, somebody might get your public key and they might be able to use your public key to break your crypto system and get your private key, but for a very small fraction of the price. I could spend $1 million, $10 million on setting up a supercomputer network to turn your public key into your private key, Or I could go to a Walmart, I could spend $10